Windy Tuesday evening here at Wolfpack Radio, as Chris had just said. We are from the Nevada Sagebrush. This is, of course, the Nevada Sagebrush Run Down, the weekly radio show where we discuss all of the happenings on and around campus, and boy, do we have a lot to discuss this week. I am the managing editor of the Nevada Sagebrush, Tyler Herskill, and with me, as always, I have my two best friends forever. How are you guys doing?
Good. What's up, guys? I'm Terrence Bynum, multimedia editor of the Nevada Sagebrush.
Yeah, and I'm Chris Boline, the editor-in-chief of the Nevada Sagebrush. Before we get down on the rundown, the Sagebrush Rundown, I want to give a quick shout to the Bald Barons in front of the Joe Crowley Student Union. You guys are doing really great, and in the words of Terrence, killing it.
Killing it. You guys really are. What an inspiration to see students really taking a stance for a great cause, and it's awesome.
Yeah, if you guys want to learn more about the Bald Barons, please check out their social media on Instagram, Twitter, the Bald Barons, and their GoFundMe campaign. In the words of Terrence's mom,
They were also featured in a story that we wrote this week, and you can find the copy of the paper that has that pretty much anywhere around campus. It's pretty hard to miss our papers. We publish every Tuesday. You can also find it online at nevadasagebrush.com, and we will be talking more about the Bald Barons later on in the show. But we do have a lot of stuff to discuss before then. We got some breaking sports news. We have some April Fool's stuff we want to discuss, even though it's one day early. But first, the big news, Eric Musselman. Let's talk.
Yeah, so kind of going with the sports theme, usually we start out with news first. But Eric Musselman, if you guys don't know, probably the biggest coaching hire this year and probably the biggest sporting Wolfpack news this year. Aside from getting the Fremont Cannon back, Eric Musselman is going to be the new head basketball coach after David Carter was dismissed following the loss to UNLV in the Mountain West tournament. And this hire is really exciting. And I think looking at what Terrence and Tyler, what I've talked to you guys about, and as with the rest of the staff that usually aren't into sports as much. Terrence, I know you threw the shot put around back in high school a little bit.
Yeah.
Everyone's pretty excited about this, and the reason why is Musselman's resume. If you look at his resume, he's a guy that had 2 stops in the NBA, both in the Golden State, with the Warriors and also with the Sacramento Kings. So he's a guy that understands the area. That's a big base for recruiting for the Wolfpack. And also looking at his experience in the college level, Musselman was most recently a coach at Arizona State, and then he was also a coach at LSU. So 2 top-tier programs, Arizona State obviously in the Pac-12 and LSU in the SEC. So really excited. I mean, that's really top-flight stuff. And if you look at trying to connect more dots to Reno with Musselman, during his stop at LSU, he was working with in the same conference as Mark Fox, who was a head coach here during the mid-2000s. And also he was the head coach of the Reno Bighorns before Lynn Sanity with Jeremy Lin. So really interesting. Got a lot of ties to the university and to the city. What do you guys think about this?
I know that he was originally from SDSU, San Diego, and apparently they are also having a little vacancy of coaching right now. Why do you think that Musselman chose Nevada over his alma mater?
Yeah, so I think just looking at obviously San Diego University is a really they did. That's his dream job. That's where he played ball in college. I think just for a combination of things, you have to look at what kind of the up and up Nevada's going to right now, and what kind of talent they have, how the university is coming up, and also that he's familiar with the region. And that goes back to his coaching stints with the Kings. Obviously the Northern California area. Shout out to Roseville, Tyler in the house, and also being here with the Bighorns. I mean, it's hard to kind of put yourself in those shoes, but at the same time, I mean, we can't really get inside his head. I mean, he was a guy who was an NBA head coach, and he got this essentially the same base salary as Coach David Carter. But I think this is just the opportunity for him to get back to the big time. And if he can prove that he can win consistently at Nevada and turn the program around, then I think it's going to say a lot about what kind of coach he is. So.
Do you think that Musselman is really going to have an opportunity or even chance in the next year or so to really turn the team around after this horrifically awful season?
I think it's hard. It's kind of early to really forecast what the Wolfpack's going to do this year. But when looking at what kind of talent they're going to bring back, it's kind of a mixed bag. Michael Perez is leaving. A couple other seniors are leaving. But they are going to return A.J. West. He was an all-conference player, and if you have a guy at center, I mean, that can compete, night in and night out, you're obviously going to be able to perform pretty well. But they also have guys like Marquise Coleman, DJ Fenner. They're always going to have depth at guard, and some guys, this year obviously showed flashes of what they can do. So, Eric Cooper Jr. as a freshman, I think the Wolfpack has a bright future. I'm not sure next year that's going to be quite the turnaround that everyone thinks is going to happen.
I'm going to have to say, yeah. I think that there's going to be a lot of good stuff happening, especially with that program, because, I do have a couple of friends on the team, and they do see the hard work that's being put in already, and they're definitely motivated and ready to make the changes that need to be changed, pretty much. And they're working really hard, and there's a lot of things already being implemented that I probably can't say on the air now, but they're definitely feeling it. So I think that they're ready to go.
Yeah, and I think just the one thing that I think gets overlooked, but I feel that the Sagebrush has done well. I'm not to tune our own horn, but this is just being realistic. The way that I think a lot of people perceive Carter as unfair, and obviously he didn't win, and when you don't win, you become very unpopular very quickly. But I mean, that's not to give a shout out to that this guy didn't put all his effort into the program, blood, sweat, and tears, the whole shebang, for 15 years at the university. So it's kind of a tough pill to swallow, especially myself growing up here and kind of seeing the maturation of him. But I think this is really exciting. Musselman's a guy that has worked with all these great coaches: Doc Rivers, Chuck Daly. I mean, these guys are. Chuck Daly is a Hall of Fame coach, and Doc Rivers is potentially a Hall of Fame coach. And if you have that kind of tutelage, and you've seen the NBA, and you've been around guys like at the big dance, it's hard not to be excited. And from what I saw from the press conference, he was very approachable. He has a lot of enthusiasm. So it kind of echoes the theme that the other head coaches here have, which is what we touched on, essentially our Mount Rushmore, the Four Horsemen, whatever you want, whatever quartet you want to link this to: Doug Newth, Brian Polian, Jay Johnson, and now Eric Musselman. So that's kind of the big four: baseball, football, the athletic director, and the basketball coach.
Now, I know that a lot of people were thinking Tony Barbie was going to be the next coach, and people were getting pretty excited about that. Obviously,
including us.
Say what?
Including myself.
Oh, you were very excited, yeah.
Pumped.
Talked about it a lot last week, and obviously Musselman has a very impressive resume.
Yeah.
Do you think that he was the better choice? Like, assume we have an infinite budget. Is this just the better coach for Nevada?
I think it was kind of a win-win, honestly. And shout out to weekly newspapers around America. It's a tough deal, especially in this case, because that was what the information that we had, and we didn't exactly think that Barbie was going to be the guy. It was just all the signs were pointing to him. But as I told my dad earlier today, last week, when we were talking about the Musselman hire, I just told him straight up, I was like, I could have done the same thing for Musselman. So that's kind of the fun thing with weekly newspapers. But I think it was a win-win. It kind of depends on what you want. Obviously, Barbie was a head coach at UTEP and Auburn, and at the collegiate level, that means a lot. And he's also on the Kentucky team. Kentucky's the baddest team in the land right now. He's the special assistant of John Calipari, so he has a lot of recruiting connections. But then you look at a guy like Musselman, who, unlike Barbie, hasn't been a head coach at the collegiate level, but he's been a head coach at the NBA level, which I think is, worth a lot, even though he was his experience is under 5 years total as a head coach. You get to look at this guy, and, I mean, he's just been a coach since day one. I think his first head coaching job was in the Continental Basketball League, so just some crazy league. But he was 23 years old. So if you guys can imagine that, coming straight out of college, immediately being a head coach of grown men, I think that's kind of says a lot for his resume.
Do we have any other thoughts on Musselman before we dive into the news section?
Yeah, I mean, Terrence, what do you guys think? I mean, and also Tyler too. Just what are you guys' thoughts on this? Because I mean, I'm obviously pretty close to the heartbeat of athletics here, but what do you guys think?
I'm excited to see what he's going to do. I think that when new people come into coaching roles like this, I think that it's always really interesting to see what these guys are going to do, because I think that they have a lot of eyes on him right now, and they just want to hear about the progress in practice and hear what the program's trying to do, hear what they're doing with the community and with the school. So I'm excited to just see what he's going to do, because I mean, at this point, I feel like we can't get any worse. We can only get better from here, because we're learning. I think these guys are fed up, and I think they're ready to go. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do.
I can't really speak from the perspective of the skill and how it will turn the team's win or loss percentage around, but I do think that this was still the best of a pretty bad situation, and it really did turn out well, because obviously the fan support was at an all-time low. Our funding is just terrible. The fact that we were able to get a coach with such a pedigree on our abysmal budget, I think, was really good. So I don't think it could have really gone much better than this. So hopefully, bright future.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of been the general consensus, is that honestly, to find a guy like they kind of like this at the current budget, they kind of, just picked out the diamond in the rough. It's so hard not to use the cliche, but this was the guy that they were looking for all along. If it was last week and Musselman was the guy, back over the Sagebrush will just has his beautiful face all over it. So.
We're obviously going to be keeping you guys updated with all the stuff that goes on. I don't imagine, Chris, do you think there's going to be any big developments for basketball in the next couple of weeks?
Well, looking at last year when Cole Huff transferred, there's obviously always time, for news to matriculate and create itself. But it's hard to say right now. Maybe some players might not be interested in playing for this new guy, a guy that they hadn't got recruited by, or maybe he's kind of saying things to them that. Maybe rub them the wrong way. Maybe they're not going to get enough playing time. Hard to say. But for the time being, I think everyone is pretty excited about this guy. I think we just have to see what he's got going on. And as Eric pointed out in his article, Eric Uribe, our sports editor, this guy, he's excited to be here. This is where he wants his family to be. So, that's really interesting long term. Short term, I don't really see the team turning around 1 year, just being from last to first. But long term, if this guy really wants to raise his family in Reno, then that's really interesting, and I think it's something to keep an eye on. So
you can also be sure to follow Sagebrush Sports on Twitter. Not a lot of people know about that compared to our main Twitter, but we will be keeping you guys updated on all the good and bad things that go on with Musselman, with basketball, and all the rest of Wolfpack athletics all the time.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive on into the news section. And the first thing that we need to talk about may not be the CP, but it is something very near and dear to my heart, which is April Fool's.
Love it.
Unfortunately, we are 1 day off from the actual April Fool's date, so we didn't have a bona fide April Fool's issue this year, but it does bring back memories of last year's issue, where pretty much every section had a pretty significant April Fool's theme. We had a lot of fun with it. We had a lot of fun on the radio show. We had, how many people did we have on? We must have had at least 6 or 7.
Yeah, it was like we were on the Wu-Tang Clan.
We had a record turnout, and I remember that my parents actually bought the entire thing until like 40 or 50 minutes into
That's so funny.
the radio show. They actually thought that I was like out of a job and the Sagebrush was done.
Yeah, well, that was fun. Last year we had a lot of creative people like we do now, and I think people were just all kind of sold in on it. Somebody at the end of every semester, people are just so exhausted with school, their clubs or their fraternities, sororities, whatever it may be. You sometimes you just need to poke fun at yourself and whatnot, and hopefully we did a good job with that last year. I actually heard from someone that the best article they read in the Sagebrush all year was that we were quitting. He was kind of saying it like kind of F you to us, but
I remember that.
But it was, but it's a good time. If you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at? Just shout out to all the millions and millions of fans.
Yeah.
Terrence, you're supposed to get me on the falsetto right there.
Oh, millions?
So when I say millions, you go, and millions.
And millions.
Yeah, that's right.
Millions.
I'm not going to follow up.
Millions.
Yeah, so all of our millions of fans in the Wolfpack Radio universe. That was a good time last year, and it's a bummer that obviously we didn't come out April
This
1st.
place was packed.
Yeah.
I
remember that.
Was. Yeah, it got raunchy in here. There's a lot of debaucherous things discussed, falling from hotel roofs and just fun stuff. All these fun stories.
Yeah, we don't endorse any of that.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Not after the faded April 1st of 2014. I do remember, I think, last year was when I wrote that Skrillex review, and now a year later I'm writing a review for another EDM band. It's come full circle.
Full circle, yeah.
I remember that. I was like, wow, I'm so proud of him. And then he was like, it was a joke. I hate Skrillex.
I will bet you guys $5 that this text I just got is, yeah, my parents are not amused that I brought up and they forgot last
bummer.
Shout
out to Tyler's parents.
Shout out, guys.
Our most consistent and best listeners by far.
Of our millions.
Millions and millions.
Millions and millions.
There you go.
There you go.
I was gonna ask you actually. Speaking of Skrillex, I was watching the Ultra Music Festival live on my laptop, and he brought out P Diddy this year. Ooh. So that's a huge game changer because hip hop artists usually don't go to EDM festivals. So it's pretty wild.
No, that's exciting news. That could have been in the article last year. That
him
and Shania Twain partnered up.
I was clearly an amateur at the time. I didn't know about the P Diddy.
I don't know. It was rough. P Diddy was the fireworks started. He's like, "I've never been to anything like this." It's like so loud.
Yeah, it sounds like Tyler at his first Sagebrush party.
Oh, the stories to tell.
That's
the stories that we will never
That is
tell.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, obviously that's obviously some very light news this week, but there's been some very big developments all over campus, and also with the legislature. Tyler, do you want to talk about our front page story? And I mean, obviously, it's unless you're hiding under a rock, it's hard not to see all those people in front of the KC.
Yeah, I can definitely kick us off for that. Our CP story was about the continuing developments in the campus carry debates that have been going on. For those that are not in the know, although I would hope that you are, campus carry basically means that you will be allowed to carry a weapon on campus, be it a gun or it's basically about guns and gun control laws. A lot of people are for it. They believe that it is their right to be protected on campus and to be able to, protect and arm themselves. Other people think it would be an unnecessary danger in a learned environment. It's a really, really heated debate. It's been going on for quite a while now, and we kind of let out the story talking about a protest going on. A lot of people are, as I said, are not for this at all, and it's just a really contentious issue right now. So what do you guys think about this?
I'd have to say I think it's awesome that people are practicing their First Amendment right out there on our campus. So kudos to them. I thought that was amazing. And also, I just, you kind of have to look from it from both ways. I was talking to my mother about this, and she was kind of torn between having the firearms on campus, not having them on campus. And, she kind of thought about it, since she is a mother and she does have, 2 sons and a daughter. And she's, thinking would I want my daughter to have a gun, to protect her? But then again, she's like, would it ever be that extensive? Would I want my daughter to have to experience shooting someone? So I don't know. It's kind of, if someone has a firearm, are they really going to shoot the person? Or would they only harm themselves? Or why are we teaching people to react? Why don't we just teach people not to rape? It's
hard to say, man. It's a crazy world.
Yeah.
And that's not, me saying it lightly either. Not obviously, but I haven't had a lot of experience with firearms. I know people that do, and I know people are very proud of that. And, more power to them. Growing up in Nevada, it's obvious. It's kind of not as around you as much as you'd think, but it still is very present. And then, Terrence, you obviously asked the question, why don't we teach people, obviously behave appropriately? That's just hard to say. I mean, the world, like I said earlier, is a very, very crazy place. I mean, I've had family members that have had the really awful misfortune of, being assaulted, raped and, that sort of thing. And this whole campus carry thing, people have a lot of really strong opinions on it, and you can definitely play devil's advocate for both sides, as Tyler pointed out earlier.
Definitely.
I mean, if you have someone that has a permit and knows what they're doing, more power to them. But I guess it's that guy that, or whoever it is that, kind of goes off the deep end. And it's a really tough case we got going on right now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we did take a stance on this about a month or two ago, maybe in a staff ed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go off. What I'll say will be basically what was said in the staff editorial. We as the Nevada Sagebrush, as the editorial staff, did not agree with campus carry. And whenever we talk about gun control laws, not even on campus, just in general, I always like to quote the great Jim Jeffries and say they're called assault rifles. You don't hear a lot about these protection rifles, so.
I think that's a good way to put it, absolutely. And then, for all you listeners out there, if you guys are interested, if you guys have any questions about this, or even just feel so strongly, we would not discourage you guys from writing a column in the Sagebrush on why you think campus carry is necessary. Like Terrence said earlier, it's your First Amendment rights, and if you feel so strongly about something, no one is going to stop you about doing that. It just becomes a problem, when there's conflict, when there's violence, and, people get hurt, so...
We do have a bit of lighter, more positive news this week, though, and this has to do with Up Till Dawn, the St. Jude fundraiser.
Yes.
Terrence, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, it was. I actually had the opportunity to go and check out Up Till Dawn, and it was such a fun-filled night. I wish everyone could have experienced it because it was so cool just seeing these students that you see every day all here just for this one cause to help St. Jude's Research Hospital, and just watching these videos and hearing stories of actually, we heard a story of a fellow student, fellow peer of ours, I guess we could say, and he was pretty much just saying, how much St. Jude has saved his life and how he lives, day to day, owing his life to St. Jude, and it's just so touching to know that we go every day, living life, and we don't have to think about that. We get to wake up. We're upset because our favorite cereal is not in the cabinet. They're dealing with life or death every day, and it's just wild. So it was really cool to just see this event. We had so many fun packed things. They had free food all night. No one was hungry. Music going, scavenger hunts, a photo booth. Got a little rowdy. I think it almost tipped over, but everything was good, and it was awesome.
This is where the ball barons really came in hot, Chris.
Yeah, and I think obviously it's very entertaining to have a group of guys that are very prominent on campus that shave their heads and they camp outside. They do all this stuff, but at the end of the day, I mean, this event raised over $30,000. If I'm correct, Terrence.
Yeah, it raised over $32,000. So when I left that night, it was around $31,700, and I guess over Sunday it reached a whole other $1,000. So,
do we know what the average is for these kind of fundraisers around the country?
I actually don't know. I do know for a university though that it was a very good amount, because they did set their goal for 25,000, I believe, and they went over by
7,000 or so?
7,000-8,000.
Yeah. So that was just really awesome to see, and I think it's always great for an organization to set the bar for themselves, and when you exceed it, I'm sure it was an amazing feeling for them.
Let's talk a little bit about the proposed bill that is going to potentially save people from opiate overdoses, which is definitely a pretty heavy topic. We were debating running something similar to, alcohol laws, drug laws in the opinion section. We've had a couple opinion columns that have touched on this a little bit. Do you guys want to kick us off?
I think it ties in a lot with Senate Bill 464 or Brady's bill, and that's the medical amnesty bill. So I think there's a lot of similarities with that in the sense that you're going to be able to make is it a prescription or is it a vaccine, or what would you call it?
The proposed bill?
Yeah.
The drug, the name of which begins with an naloxone, is apparently it's only allowed to be used by legitimate medical professionals right now. Mm-hmm. It's not widely available to the layman. So
yeah. Well, I think it does draw some similarities with SB 464. However, I mean, people aren't using opiates and heroin as often as they are using alcohol. And so when you put, I guess, something that is powerful for only medical professionals to use, that's where it becomes a big problem. But if you make it available, I mean, obviously, with a lot of these bills, I mean, that's why they're bills at the end of the day. It's not like common sense. Whereas I think medical amnesty makes a lot more sense because of how frequently alcohol is used, and people can exploit that sometimes. But if you're, if it's with heroin and that, it's crazier because it's the people themselves using it as opposed to trained medical staff. And I think that's where it kind of puts up the red flag.
For those that are unaware of the drug lingo, opiates often, they're a kind of drug like, heroin, morphine, Vicodin, things that are just incredibly powerful, incredibly physically and mentally addictive, and it's a big problem. And when we were alluding to how it can be similar to the medical amnesty bill, we're talking about how, say a student is drunk and he basically wants an out. If he's about to be caught, he could call to I need medical attention, I need to go to the hospital, and he would not be charged with anything, even if he was a minor. And people were kind of drawing similarities to this naloxone drug where, I can just, do as much heroin as I want. I can just take this drug and I'll be fine. It's something that the naysayers are saying would just, promote more drug use.
Yeah, I mean, and Terrence, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I think starting with medical amnesty, which we took a stance on in our editorial, but also, naloxone, is that how you say it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'd have to probably take a very similar stance to you, just because I feel like when you have something that dangerous, near the public, not everyone is educated enough to know how things work and how they should be doing things with their body and everything like that. So it's just, it's kind of an iffy subject to kind of touch on, Because what is going to happen, So it's, I don't know. I just worry for the people that aren't educated enough, that don't know what's going on with all of this. How are they going to take it?
To give a brief little recap on what's going on in more UNR-centric news, the senator for the College of Science, Jeffrey Dominguez, recently resigned. Apparently, he just no longer wished to fulfill his duties, which, I don't know, I kind of never really heard of that happening here at UNR.
Weird.
Goodbye. And I think just to say, I guess play devil's advocate for Senator Dominguez, he had a really rough year. So I think it kind of just wore him down at the end of the day. And I don't know Jeff personally, so I'm not going to speak for him. But I mean, that was my observation. That's my kind of take on it. What happened there.
And looking at it and thinking about it, there's a lot of things senators have to set for themselves to do to take care of their colleges and everything. And I don't know, maybe he didn't feel as if he wasn't doing enough, or maybe he didn't do enough, and he was just kind of getting nervous that he didn't really leave much behind that he made a difference on. So, I mean, I understand life gets crazy, but you have to keep pedaling, because it's just going to move even faster. So I feel like it doesn't really set a good example for the rest of the student body, and especially people from your college who voted for you and wanted to see you succeed. And it kind of shows, before you go into those roles, do you know if you're going to be able to do it? And right, I mean, it's just another example, just someone not looking long term, but it's things happen, and I respect his decision, because it took a lot of kahunas just to get up there.
Mm-hmm. To elaborate more on the future of, just the UNR College of Science, the bureaucratic side seems to be kind of iffy right now. They recently elected Abby Sheps, I believe that's how you pronounce her last name, to Jeffrey's position. Abby was going against a guy named Colin Wilhelm, who, in a strange move, actually endorsed Sheps. Kind of seems like we're seeing that a lot in UNR politics recently. But it appears that really no one was really happy with this appointment, because it appears that neither of the proposed senators really knew a lot about the college. So I don't think people are really happy right now with that position. So odd things. We'll definitely be keeping you guys updated with what goes on at all the Senate meetings. You can read about the Senate recap every week on page A2. All right, I think that we covered just about everything in news. You guys want to go back to sports, get the other non-Musclemen news? What do we got going on, Chris?
Yeah, so the Wolfpack baseball team, big series this week against UNLV. They're doing really well this season. There were 20 wins on the year. They unfortunately just lost to Santa Clara on the road, and that was coming off a 4-game road slant that they had, where they also played San Jose State. So they eventually were 2-2 overall in those 4 games. But these guys are doing extremely well, as hopefully a lot more Wolfpack fans should know. Austin Byler is obviously the usual suspect. Right now, Michael Fain at one of the studs of the pitching staff. These guys are all doing really phenomenal. This is a huge series this week against UNLV, because not only is it for state bragging rights, but it's also for the Governor Series, which Nevada has never won in the 3 years since it's been a competition. But this could be, this is shaping up to be the Wolfpack's year so far.
Yeah, and I was thinking about talking to some of my friends in ASUN, because it's a shame that these guys don't see a lot of their peers out there and a lot of students at these games. And I think maybe doing an event like free hot dogs and free, Cracker Jacks just out there with like music and just like promoting all of that, especially for the freshmen, just giving them something to do in the middle of the day on a Saturday, I think would be such an awesome opportunity to get students out there, because we truly are doing so well in that sport. And I think it'd be an awesome opportunity for ASUN to kind of help them out and get students out there.
Yeah, what were some of the senators' feedback that you got?
I haven't been able to talk to them yet, but that's what I plan on doing, is kind of like visiting with Ryan Supe, who's my college senator for the College of Journalism, but pretty much just talking to them and see if they can voice that opinion, and just and I know he's a baseball fan, so I kind of maybe he'll pick up what I'm putting down.
Should we discuss Pro Day a little bit before we head on over to A&E?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely talk a little bit about Pro Day, and obviously, if you guys are unaware, Pro Day essentially is just kind of like the last final dress rehearsal, to kind of lay it all on the line for NFL draft prospects to, essentially showcase what they have for scouts. Some of the scouts in attendance at Nevada's Pro Day included the Indianapolis Colts, a couple teams from Canada. I believe I saw a Green Bay Packers shirt out there. I'm not 100% sure.
Really?
But, so, I mean, it's definitely common to see those sites. 2 years ago when I went, the Chargers were there, which is my team, and the Dolphins were also there, which is coincidentally Eric Uribe's team. It's very cool. Some of the highlights, Cody Fajardo did not participate in any of the agility drills. He did not run the 40-yard dash. That was because he did so well at the NFL Combine. He ended up finishing in the top 10 for quarterbacks in every category. So he did really well there. So that's actually a good move because you want your stock to stay as high as it could.
Right.
And if you're able to perform at the Combine, it's kind of the reversal where a lot of players perform a lot better at their pro days, whereas some of the guys kind of wilt at the Combine when all the lights are on them. But Evan Favors was the total surprise standout from pro day. Fajardo threw really well, but Favors ran a 4.45 4-yard dash, which is just a smoking fast time, especially for a Nevada guy who aren't really known for their speed. And just to kind of give you guys a point of reference, the 40-yard dash, it sounds like it's not a lot in between. I remember I had this conversation with my dad in middle school because it was my first time, I'd ever heard the idea of a 40-yard dash. And I was like, okay, this offensive lineman ran in 5 seconds, but this really fast guy ran in 4.4. It's only 0.6 of a second. Like, what's the difference? It's actually really huge if you think it over, 40 yards.
Now, do you think that either of these players have pretty good chances to, really make a name for themselves?
Yeah, so I think Fajardo and Stone Harper, our assistant sports editor, identified all these reasons, and this is kind of like what the draft pundits are saying. The draft is kind of a crapshoot in a lot of ways. You can only tell so much about what a player is going to do, but I mean, the big thing that you hear from NFL draft prospects is when they get to the big time, they just hear it's so much faster than college because these are grown men, and they're the guys that have been playing in the league for 10 years. They've seen it all.
And this is their career at that point.
Yeah, and that's 100% their livelihood. So I think Fajardo is obviously the big name. He's going to probably be a 4th to 7th round pick, and hopefully maybe a team like the Chargers. Shout out to San Diego. Hopefully you guys pick it up, find Phillip Rivers' replacement.
He's so wild.
It was just wild. So hopefully, he lands at a team that has an offense that's geared around his dual threat ability. Favors, I don't think he played well enough this year for him to get drafted, but he might earn an invite to training camp because he has such good agility and speed.
Do you think that my pessimism might be misplaced? Because I still remember Deontay Burton, obviously legendary basketball player at UNR, then gets cut from the Kings, just a few months after being drafted earlier last year. And now I'm wondering, I mean, Fajardo may be a good player, but does he really have that kind of amazing status and this prodigious level of skill that we all thought Burton had?
Yeah, so it's funny because Nevada, that's actually a really funny question just in the sense that that's kind of like what Nevada's rep is. You don't really know what you're getting. And essentially it's a rep of a lot of mid-major schools in the Mountain West or Conference USA, or unless they're just some physical freak of nature that for whatever reason they go to a big-time school. They could light it up. And, Fajardo, his stats speak for himself, but what doesn't really help him out is the win-loss total. Cody didn't win as many games as a lot of people thought he should have. Just by looking at his box score or, whatever, his statistical breakdown, rushing yards, passing yards, touchdowns, or whatever, he's one of the top 5, people could argue, of dual-threat quarterbacks of, the last 15 years. And that's including all of college football. But at the same time, you look at guys that went to the NFL that were dual-threat guys, Robert Griffin III, Michael Vick, obviously a huge example of that. Those are guys that are faster than Fajardo, too. And they've had kind of up and down thing, up and down, injury prone, that sort of thing. So his running style is going to leave him open to a lot of hits and injuries like that. And, there have been successful players to come out of Nevada. Obviously, everyone knows Colin Kaepernick, but what a lot of people don't know is that, there's about 10 or so Nevada guys in the NFL, and those are just from the last five or so years. So, maybe Fajardo or a guy like Brock Hecking obviously would be able to latch on. Brock obviously has the size, and, Cody does too. But some of the other tweener guys, Matt Gallus, Evan Favors, and the other guys that worked out there, while they were awesome Nevada players, it's just hard to find in the NFL because not only this isn't going to college anymore because it's not you're competing against guys from Oregon, California, or whatever that didn't go to USC or Oregon or whatever it may be. These are guys that went to Stanford, that excelled, that play at the highest level, or went to Texas or Florida or Alabama. I mean, you guys they're fighting. This is why the NFL guys are paid so much because
it's a national challenge.
Yeah, so it's such a competitive pool of applicants. But the Nevada guys, I mean, they've played through a lot of adversity, moving to the Mountain West, and Fujaro's a really good leader, and so Hecking obviously is just an outrageous personality, but he's also a hard worker from what I've spoken with teammates about. So it's always interesting to see how the Nevada guys do, and that's why I think Kaepernick was just elevated to that such high of a level because you got to see his meteoric rise was just so unprecedented for the school.
All right, we're going to be moving on to the arts and entertainment section after a brief musical break where we will be discussing, among other things, my long-awaited return to music reviewing. So here's a little preview of that album. This is Rockweiler by The Prodigy. We'll be right back.
Anybody?
Who did you meet at WrestleMania? By the way, everyone, Chris went to WrestleMania.
I know, I was so jealous because like I was like, oh, it's just WrestleMania, and then I was like, it's WrestleMania. Like the WrestleMania only happens what? Once
a year.
Once a year.
It's the Super Bowl of wrestling, and so it wasn't just myself that went there. Eric Uribe, third shout out this show. Hopefully you're tuning in. If you're not, you're missing out. But he was the mastermind behind that excursion. We went with, it was myself, Eric, and his Elko homeboy Sergio.
That's so awesome.
So me and Terrence were talking off air, and there were a lot of celebrities there. Obviously, I didn't get to meet Ronda Rousey or The Rock, but
that would have been so cool.
Yeah, but you know, for all the wrestling fans out there, I got to meet a couple Hall of Famers: Scott Hall, Hacksaw Jim Dugan, really cool, and then Zack Ryder, who's kind of a newer guy. He wasn't really feeling it though. He was kind of a bummer. Like he kind of would just, because the way it was kind of like a Comic-Con convention that we went to. You kind of go up, you wait in line, you go up, you shake their hand, get the autograph, and just talk to him for.
What about the Undertaker? You
30 seconds.
Get the Undertaker? That's like the big one, isn't it?
No, he wasn't there. Undertaker.
I would have died.
I thought you said he was there.
He was at the event. He was at WrestleMania
But
itself.
no, like the meet and greet.
No, he wasn't.
I saw you met the girl from Divas.
She was there. Yeah, I think I shook her hand. Yeah, she had a quite the outfit on that evening.
Yeah.
But
did you lean in for a hug?
No, I just asked how their stay was in San Francisco. You kind of know when you get into a situation where the person's body language wasn't really like good.
Okay.
So shout out to Zack Ryder. It wasn't really my favorite there, but Scott Hall and Hacksaw, they were great. I actually got to talk to Scott Hall for about this match that I was really a big fan of when I was 10 years old. So it was really cool, and just be able to do that. And I think that's just like, whether it's I think it's like you go into the Ultra Festival, or Tyler, you go into like a Tool concert or whatever it may be, just the heavy metal thing, and kind of meeting these old legends and whatnot. So it was really interesting, and I think it kind of shows that, as kind of polarizing as wrestling is from time to time. There are a lot of people that were there. We almost went to a nightclub with Wale and Rey Mysterio.
Almost. Why not actually do it?
Well, what were we doing that night? We had walked around San Francisco the entire day, from the middle of the Golden Gate Bridge to through Lombard Street and then through Fisherman's Wharf. So we were pretty beat by then.
Oh, come on!
Did you put sunscreen on? Because you don't look burnt at all.
Yeah, I got pretty lucky.
Proud of you, boss.
I'm pretty lucky. I didn't put any sunscreen on, and it's kind of ironic because usually when I do put sunscreen on, I do get burnt, so it's weird. So I'm just kind of rolling the dice with that one, but.
We're glad you're back safe and sound, though.
Yeah.
If you didn't go to the night.
Yeah, and so
missed you.
Yeah, well, I missed you guys too. You guys did great. In my 1 day absence, I had no. You guys are fine. You guys are grown guys. You guys don't
only burned down the office a little.
Yeah.
Don't need little on me. Yeah, set the coffee pot on fire. The printer. Shout out to the Sagebrush printer.
Start working again, please. That would be nice.
Printy HP. That's the name.
Okay, well, speaking of sort of con things, we do have an actual con to discuss in the arts and entertainment section, which is Otakapalooza, which was essentially a Japanese anime and manga.
Manga. Shout out to mangas.
You a fan of the mangas, Chris?
I got a couple. I have Akira and Dragon Ball Z. A couple of volumes.
Wow.
Oh no, I'm thinking of Naruto. That's a big one that ended
Naruto.
And people
I know
were
that one.
Freaking out.
It's a big one.
Oh.
Yeah. So basically, this was a festival that happened at UNR, where people were able to dress up as their favorite characters, just mingle, meet new friends, have a lot of fun. There was a maid cafe, which is a pretty big cultural thing in Japan, where just maids and butlers serve you. I don't really understand it, but it's just like a cool little thing to be able to bring to culture here. I remember we covered something similar to this way back earlier in the school year, like last semester by far, which was like just a Japanese summer festival, and just a lot of fun to see this kind of culture come to UNR, see people get together from all ethnicities and sides of campus to enjoy it. Have you guys ever been to something like this?
No. The closest I've ever gotten was driving on the strip after work and seeing Comic-Con, and it was just like, what's happening in this crosswalk? Because I need to get out of here.
There's a lot going on.
There was so much. You got like straps in every which place. Stuff was hanging out.
Not a fan?
I had to get out of there.
Are you sure that was Comic-Con or was that a
It might have just been an
Bondage
average night on the
festival.
strip.
bondage festival? Yeah. Yeah. So I had a really cool opportunity last semester to go to Comic-Con in Reno. And Alexa, shout out to Alexa, who couldn't be here this evening. She commented on our Facebook post. Thanks for commenting, Alexa, that you couldn't be here. She did really well. Talked to a couple, obviously the celebrities there and whatnot. So yeah, I met Lou Ferrigno, who is the Incredible Hulk. Shook his hand. He has giant hands. I'm forgetting his name, but he's on. That's not Gilmore Girls. It's what's that show that a lot of the younger listeners.
I think you're asking the wrong guys.
But younger
No, I think I might be able to get this. Okay, give me some clues.
It's like Pretty Little Liars.
Oh, Ezra.
I don't know if it's Ezra.
I bet you that's his
It's a white boy.
Ezra.
Okay. Well, we met his actor, or whoever,
Wow.
one of the actors on there. So
That's cool.
Alexa was really starstruck. No, she wasn't, but
What?
but
I would have been. I'm actually,
Which-
it's a good one.
Which Hulk was this? Because I know the Hulk is Ed Norton and Mark Ruffalo.
It's the original Incredible
The
Hulk.
one that talks like this, and he's
Oh.
like, "I'm Lutheran, bro."
Yeah, he's Lou Ferrigno. Yeah, the 1970s Hulk.
I didn't know if that was like more someone from the Expendables or.
I mean,
Hey.
it's close.
He's kind of in that realm. Yeah.
Yeah,
just
I
kinda-
was. I didn't get the dialect right away, but I was on the right track.
So, Chris, you own some manga. How'd that start?
What is it?
Just stunned in silence. Manga, just like Japanese comic books.
Yeah, so like I didn't even know you were into that.
And actually, a lot of people don't know that, and I just have like a lot of different tastes, man. I mean, I kind of take it like don't forget where you came from, and a lot of things kind of fell by the wayside. But for me, I mean, I was telling one of these prospects, through the pledging process for my fraternity the other day, just tell me something interesting about you, and I said, I have a really good knowledge of Dragon Ball Z. I just for whatever reason I got so deep into
He
it.
is the one.
Yeah,
Wow.
so that's another one of those things. I mean,
I still don't like Vegeta.
great. He's one of the great anti-heroes of our time.
Well, if you
Alright.
both have opinions about this, what about that movie that released a couple years back? What was it, like Dragon Ball Z?
No.
Oh,
Are
No.
we not going to speak of that?
No. Not a
In
fan.
the words of Terrence's mom again.
Why are you not a fan?
It was so like, just like not. It was so unoriginal and
Yeah.
just like too Hollywood and
Yeah.
and like. I don't know. I just remember like that whole feeling, like when you saw like everyone, like when you saw like Goku, like you know what I mean? Like it was just like this recognition thing, and I think maybe we were just so tied in with the cartoon version that maybe we couldn't let ourselves go to enjoy it. But I watched it about 3 times now, and I still can't.
You watched it multiple times.
So kind of like I don't know. I
After
kind
the first time,
it's
why
kind of
would you
like
go
bad
back?
food when you're like it wasn't good the first time. I'll try it again, and you're like
Dragon Ball Evolution, bro. Yeah, I'll be 100%. I haven't seen the movie start to finish, and that's probably a good thing.
It definitely is.
I think that's just the thing with any live action adaptation for if you guys are fans of whether it's a TV show or a cartoon or that sort of realm or an anime or
Game, anything like that.
or comic book, yeah. It's kind of hit or miss, and that was a pretty big disappointment. I do remember where I was when I first knew that like it actually come out, and I was in San Diego at my grandparents' house, and I looked through the movie review section, and half a star out of 5, and I was just like, well, good thing the anime's still there, because I mean at least all my childhood's gonna be ruined.
I just feel like they missed out on so much, and like it just jumped so fast. You bet, like for like 2 things that happened, it took them like a season and a half to tell us like through like
and I think that was
I don't know.
And I was talking to Eric, and Eric wasn't a big fan of DBZ, but his buddy Sergio was, and Tyler, were you a big DBZ guy?
No, not at all.
So-
I saw the movie just because it was so notorious, but I never watched the
That's terrible.
Notorious.
anime.
Must-
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's no, yeah. I mean, that was. I guess you just have every third person is just not a fan, but the other two are. So nah, but
I was
that's
into Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid, so there's that.
yeah. So I liked Yu-Gi-Oh for a while
Pokemon.
too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just
I lost
the king.
my whole binder of cards at the mall, and ever since then, I never looked back.
Oh, I was gonna say you should have been like traumatized or something.
I
but
was a
never
little
looked
bit.
back.
I had a temper tantrum,
Wow.
and it was definitely one of the worst ones ever.
Yeah.
I
Well,
threw things. I wasn't myself.
I think we can all kind of attest to that. Tyler, have you ever had a Pokemon meltdown?
When I lost at the game, but never by having my card stolen or just lost or whatever. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the game. Yeah, talking about the game. See, just look at Otaku Palooza. They hit the nail on the head. Look how much people love this stuff. But talking about the game real quick. I was about 6 or 7 years old. Pokemon Red. For whatever reason, there's a function in the game where you can only have 6 Pokemon at a time. I go to the PC, which is essentially the dispensary, the ATM of the game, withdraw Pokemon, release them, whatever. I made the unfortunate mistake of releasing them because I could not read those words back in the day. Guess who I ended up releasing, boys?
Charizard.
No.
Freaking
Charizard, Nidoking, Pidgeot, the whole gang.
Dang.
And I didn't know where they were, and I just lost it. Just lost my mind.
That's like a Twitch plays Pokemon level controversy right there.
Yeah, and my dad didn't know what to do, so he ended up sitting on me.
What?
He just sat, because people discipline their kids, you don't know what to do, and
You just sit on them?
just sat on me, man.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, he just sat, and I thought I was gonna die. I thought I was gonna suffocate.
My mom did the neck grab.
The neck.
Yeah, she
What is
Just-
wrong with your parents?
just and then just walked me out and was like, act like that again, and we're done.
Yeah,
I will pop your head off right now.
that's a part of being a parent, man. I mean,
This show just got dark.
hey, we can't
No.
put our heads in the sand. I mean, this is the real world, man.
And I'm glad that happened because let me tell you, I stood up straight and wiped my tears off and walked. I'm not messed around, Mama D. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Nope.
All right, well, we definitely want to move on to the opinion section in a moment. We have a very big thing to announce there. But before we do that, I want to briefly talk about the album review that I wrote this week because it's been a couple months, I think, or at least a month or two since I've written for the paper. So, either of you guys a fan of The Prodigy?
I'm not, but I did enjoy hearing input on it.
I'm surprised because aren't you usually into most of that?
I am. I don't know what it is. I need to I bet you anything, Tyler, that I have heard them. I think it's just not clicking right now.
If you heard Firestarter, you would probably recognize them.
It's like it's in a Charlie's Angels with Charlie's Angels 2, right?
I don't know.
It's like
I'll think
Kind of, yeah. It's kind of like that.
I think I've heard. I know him. I think I'm not gonna say I love him, but I think I know him and I enjoy him.
Clearly, we'll have to play that on the next show. But for those not in the know, The Prodigy is a historic band, one of the most influential as far as electronic music goes. When in the 90s, when the British police were doing big crackdowns on raves and making the artists go into illegal underground venues, The Prodigy fought back with a monumentally impactful album. Music for the Jilted Generation is today known as one of the greatest electronic albums ever made. Eventually, The Fat of the Land, their follow-up, got them into international superstardom. A whole bunch of controversy with one of their supposedly misogynistic songs, and today they're just one of the biggest bands out there. And a lot of people don't like most of their 21st century work. You should definitely check this out. The Day Is My Enemy released yesterday. It's their 6th album. It's definitely returned to form. It's more EDM based than their punk-inspired techno from before, but it's about as good as EDM is going to get, I think. So definitely worth checking out. Chris, do you want to talk about the special piece that we had an opinion this week?
Yep, and if we had some more time, we'd definitely play the national anthem, but we obviously don't. We're kind of coming down to the wire here, but
Only the Beyonce version.
it's not our most special guest that we've ever had at the Sagebrush, or is it? We've definitely had sex columnists over the year that have drawn a lot of attention. We've had Latino voices this year, LBGT voices. We've had Phil Corbett talk about his kind of travels on being a hitchhiker traveling across America. We've had a lot of great opinion columns in the Sagebrush, but I don't think we've ever had an opinion writer of the magnitude of President Barack Obama.
It's true. President Barack Obama actually wrote an op-ed for our newspaper this week. We were the only publication in the entirety of the state of Nevada to run it, and it was an incredible honor to have him write for us this week. It was about the Student Aid Bill of Rights, where it's basically him trying to, help students get the money to at least have 2 years of college. What did you guys think of this?
I think we need to back our prez up. I think that we need to be fortunate for what we have, and I think other people should have that opportunity also.
Chris, what did you think about this? How shocked were you when you got the email from the White House?
Yeah, I think that's probably for me.
Your face. I wish I could have been there.
I think it was just more. When I got the email, I thought it was a joke at first. I actually was with you guys that night. You guys remember we were at the alumni event?
Yep.
And I think, definitely if you work at a newspaper or you work at a company, you're obviously going to get those kooky emails from the prince or whatever asking for money. So it was from the White House Office of Communications, and they were just like, hey, like, you're going to be the only one to run this. And so I investigated further. And then I believe on Monday that week, I got a call from a blocked number. And it was obviously from the White House. I ended up asking Dominique, who was their communication director, why is this a blocked number? She's like, the White House for security reasons. And I'm just like, oh man, that's like so crazy. So it was really that was the craziest part. And I think to be able to put down his name in there and under contributing staffers, I think it's kind of created a lot of buzz. And I think it's just, I don't know, it's kind of one of those really like little things that it's kind of a big thing that it makes this job really worthwhile.
Now, the real question though, every volunteer that writes for the Sagebrush and is in good standing gets invited to the end of your party, right?
That's correct. That's in good standing. Yes, that's correct.
We won't say any names.
Oh,
that's with any organization. You got to be in good standing.
Now, you do have essentially contact with President Barack Obama now.
Essentially,
so are we going to see him?
Yeah, essentially, yes. I could reach out to Dominique, and you guys know that this is my last semester. I might just give it a go, and
I really think you should
give her a ring back and just say like, hey, we'd like to extend a formal invitation to the party.
I would pass out. I would be like, this is it. I think
Barack would pass out after a couple go rounds with the news section.
I hope he brings Michelle.
Be that what it may.
Bring the kids too.
Bring the kids. Bring the wife and kids.
We see you, Sasha.
Just bring them all, man. And then just have the Secret Service roll in there.
They're totally listening right now. Like, oh no.
Be that what it may. At the end of the day, Barack Obama is among the other college students that we have in the paper and our contributing staffers. The names include among people like Ryan Supe, Angel Harper. Shout out to you two. Thank you this week. Oh, and President Barack Obama. So.
Yep. Yeah, shout out to everyone that wrote this week. Obviously, we're always looking for volunteers. I actually got an email today from someone that was interested. So we're really easy to approach. And if you guys are looking for experience, you're looking to get involved, I don't think there's a lot of better opportunities than the Nevada Sagebrush.
Journalism majors are welcome. You're not required to be a journalism major, though. All right. Well, that's just about all the time we have. Do you guys want to say where you can be reached at and all that good stuff?
You can reach me on Twitter and Instagram at Terrence J. Bynum.
Yeah, mine's pretty similar. You can reach me on both at CD Bolin.
You can reach me on Twitter at Tyler Hersko, and you can be sure to follow the Nevada Sagebrush on Twitter at The Sagebrush and on Instagram at NV Sagebrush. You can find us on Facebook, just search the Nevada Sagebrush, and of course on the interwebs at nevadasagebrush.com. We would like to thank Wolfpack Radio for hosting us here. You can find them online at wolfpackradio.org and NVWR 1700 AM. Their FM station is coming up, so be sure to be ready for that. You can also find their app on the Apple and Android marketplaces. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you next Tuesday. Have a good night.